sick.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
If you were to look at, say, the Orbea Occam's fork travel and stanchion diameter, you might not call it a trail bike. There are some machines that match that limited description that are well into the all-mountain category. But it wasn't that simple. Until, that is, we took the Orbea Occam to Park City, Utah, and actually rode it.
I feel like this is a quintessential trail bike. Felt kind of shortish and snappy-ish, and I felt a little more on top of the bike than I have on some other 29ers this year. I got to ride this thing back home in New England, and it was so fun on just like flowing, snappy, tight single track.
And it's just as clear to me too, but I didn't know it until I got on it.
Totally.
I mean, we look at numbers and you look at spec and it's confusing, but no, there is something, snappy is the word. It's really responsive under pedaling. It's really responsive under steering and torque. I mean, it's a really light underfoot kind of bike.
Yeah. So then what throws it out of category for you? Is it that it's got a 36 per fork? Because but otherwise, it's not that much different than a stump jumper or just about anything else in this category, trail bike-ish.
Well, but to Travis's point, it's also not that different from the Hightower.
Right.
Which we have in the same category as this bike, but to me feels more like an all-mountain bike, whereas this feels like a dyed-in-the-wool trail bike.
I'd go with that.
Yeah, it is. There's something almost heavy feeling about the Hightower. Not in the traditional sense of you pick it up and it's heavy, but it has a slower, like a deep bass, kind of a stoner rock Melvins kind of a vibe to it, you know?
Heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
As in gonna mess you up.
Yeah,
heavy.
for sure. Yeah,
Got
this Occam, quick feeling, and I think really versatile.
Yeah, I mean, you get on this thing, I think it is the best climbing 140-ish travel bike I've ridden since I was on the Ripmo. And that is quite a compliment.
Praise. Very high praise.
And I'm not saying it's better than the Ripmo, but I'm saying it's probably second best.
Well, to follow that, the only bike I went up the hill on our test loop on faster was the Top Fuel.
Which is basically a cross-country race
bike.
bike-ish.
Yeah, and weighs about 6 pounds less.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it climbs really well. The suspension is, to me, like a very pliable and active, but gives you just enough read as to what you're doing. It's not the hover bike that some of us expect as you're getting into this travel and up from it, but I really, really like the way it worked.
Yeah.
And super nice suspension components. Like, you can't really get better than that for a bike. Normally, I would look at this travel and I wouldn't think of a 36. I would think, this is 34 territory, but I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I think the adjustability of the 36 really benefits this bike. And the stoutness of the 36, I think, pairs well with the chassis.
Yeah.
So to me, what made this bike feel more like a trail bike, beyond the climbing performance, was that on descents, it feels very compact in a way that its numbers don't necessarily suggest. And the benefit of that is, as we were saying, like, this thing corners on rails. I mean, like, I was just like hunting for the next corner on this bike, and you just slap the bike into it and you're out of it and into the next one, and it's a party in the corners.
It handles really well. Like, I liked the neutrality of it, for lack of a better word. Like, I'm reaching the point where I'm starting to get, like, on longer travel bikes, barged out by them. Like, I can't use more suspension, really. Like, I feel myself over-suspended and over-wheelbased. And this is kind of at the upper end of what I like in a wheelbase, but it's so well-mannered, and the wheels stay so well in line with each other, and it just goes where you point it and how you point it, that I like everything about the way it handled. It was really sweet.
That's where I think the numbers get a little bit confusing, where someone like me who may want a real point and shoot, sit inside of it and go along for the ride, I'd be better off with the Hightower. But again, East Coasters, this gives you that capability and that travel, but in a way more precise package.
And it still, to me, felt plenty stable. We're talking like a 65.5 degree head angle, 44 millimeter rake fork.
440 mil chain stays.
It's long enough. And like, I clipped a pedal going downhill fast. Like, just pegged that thing. And didn't flinch. Like the bike was fine. I kind of like splayed all the way off it, feet blew off pedals, hands off bars, and the bike kind of kept going straight long enough for me to pull it back in and remain on trail. I don't think it lacks for stability in any way.
This shouldn't have come as a surprise. 2 years ago when we rode the Rayon, it blew our minds too. But the Occam is in a category with a far wider audience and has a lot more people to please. Still, there aren't many who wouldn't be pleased. Of course, it's not cheap, but that depends on how you build it and how you look at it.
This is a really expensive bike. It's $8,000, the one we have as spec. And that's a lot of coin to drop on a bike. But it's XTR.
Yeah.
It's XTR shifters and brakes and cassette and derailleur and all the goodness that comes with XTR.
And really nice carbon DT wheels. Yeah, that
and
like,
they're super
no
light. They're
rolling
like
resistance.
1,430 grams and a high roller front tire, which we like.
I like.
At this deluxe-y price point with this super nice component spec and as good a Fox suspension as you can purchase, it's $8,000. Which seems like a lot until you look at, say, an identically, almost exactly the same spec Specialized stump jumper, which is going to cost you $9,500 and some dollars. When it comes to like throwing a whole lot of money at a bike, this represents a pretty good value proposition.
And really, if you don't want to spend $8,000, you can spend $4,000, get the full carbon
Same frame.
and that comes out of the box with the 34 and 140 mil. For another $500, you get this 36 with the Grip 2 damper. And that's something cool that Orbea offers. A few of the crucial points, you can pick your fork, you can totally pick other things that I can't remember.
You pick your tires, you can pick your seat post.
You also, in some models, can customize color down to both frame colors, the Orbea color, logo colors. You can even get a name printed on it.
You can make it really ugly if you want.
Or make it, as would be my preference, black with black decals.
Other than its deep customization options, there are a lot of bikes like the Occam, at least in the sense that it's somewhere on the capable end of the trail spectrum. What sets it apart, though, is how well it competes with bikes on the other end of that spectrum. It's really light and quick for a bike so at home in the rough stuff. We go a little deeper in the written review on bikemag.com, where we've also got the rest of the Bible bike test videos.